Hello everyone, it's Shu Gabikini. For those of you who do not know me, I'm the founder of Grace and Hope Consulting. I'm a board certified Christian counselor and a certified cognitive behavioral group therapist. I was in church this morning and our pastor started this series of our family life, and today he was talking about addiction in the home, and that got me thinking about my friends caregivers. And a lot of you know that I have a passion for caregivers, for supporting caregivers. So my little talk today is geared towards caregivers who are supporting caring for a loved one with an addiction. And first of all, I want to just start by saying that we are all addicted in some ways, and often shame and stigma is what prevent people from seeking help. And that go from the person that it has an addiction to the people who live with him, the people who are supporting him. Usually shame and stigma is what keeps us from seeking help. And what do I mean by we're all addicted? So often we talk mostly about drug, alcohol, things that all of us can know, many others can see. It's out there. People can see when you're addicted to alcohol. To most time they can see, but nobody talks about those invisible addictions. People pleasing. I'm addicted to chocolate, and I can admit that. At some point in my life, I was addicted to work. Before I actually opened my own business, I was addicted to work, but so realizing that we all have something that we are struggling with, something that is a stronghold in our life that we cannot let go of, is just acknowledging that helps us be more compassionate towards other, right? So for the person who is afraid of what others will think if I go seek help, remember that all of us are struggling with one thing or another, right? And so why do people engage into addiction? Most people, if you talk to someone who has an addiction, they'll tell you that's not what they want for their life, for themselves. So it's also understanding that with addiction, there's neurological, biological, physiological, psychological, and spiritual components to it, right? People don't just become addicts because they want to be addicted. No, there is a lot of things that come into play. And when you realize that we're all falling short somehow, right, it gives us more compassion towards other. And also just acknowledging that there is a difference between the person. We have to get to a point we can differentiate and make a distinction between the person and the addiction and the issue, right? So just because my loved one has an addiction, you can call me an addict if you want to. I personally do not like those terms. It's this person's that who has an addiction, person that's suffering from an addiction, but that doesn't necessarily makes them who they are. So starting from that place of grace, acknowledging that again we're all falling short, we all have issues that we're working toward, we all have things that we need to make better in our lives, helps us have more compassion for others. So if shame and stigma is stopping you from seeking help, just remember that no one is perfect and we all have something to work towards. So seek help for yourself, for you, so you can have a better life. And something else that I wanted to point out to caregivers, like often we get into this cycle of just keeping the peace. We do all these things to keep the peace at home, keep the peace at work. We don't want them to get upset, so we maybe unintentionally start feeding into their addiction. We start providing means for them to stay stuck there because we fear the consequences of not doing so. But we don't realize that what we're doing, it's not healthy for ourselves, it's not healthy for others, for the person that is affected by that. It actually impacts all of us. So what we might consider helpful in the moment can be hurtful in the long term. I'll say that again. What we might consider helpful in the moment can be hurtful in long term. So always think about the long term effect of what you're doing now, and keeping the peace is not a healthy coping strategy. It actually, I guess, it leads to codependency. You're just stuffing the pain for the moment, but in the long term, you're actually making the wound deeper, right? And when we engage in codependency, when we're doing things, and when I say doing things to actually that helps the addiction go on, it might be that you know, instead of having somebody yelling and screaming and breaking things in your house, you figure, well, I might just buy that bottle, let them drink, then I have enough of it. Or when they do drink, you know, maybe you're the one who called their employer the next day and say that, you know, they're off sick, they need a day off, right? So we're doing things that are enabling them to continue in that lifestyle. And again, we often caregiver do that for the sake of keeping the peace, but actually we're not keeping the peace, we're just, you know, continuing to create chaos around us. And when we engage in those type of behavior, when we think we're keeping the peace, it's because we don't want to, you know, hurt someone's feeling. We don't want to make things worse. Again, we are making things worse by by, you know, keeping that going. And it is actually helpful to let people experience the consequences of their actions, right? And often we don't see it that way. It's like, you know, and caregivers, like if your mom and your child's the one that's, you know, that has an addiction, you automatically want to rescue them, right? And in rescuing people, you're paying the fine. If they're drunk and they're driving, they get a ticket, you pay the fine for them. You're not teaching them how to get out of that cycle. Right? When we live or when we face the consequences of our actions is when most likely we learn from them. And I like even next morning, I said the pastor was preaching about addiction this morning, and he shared, I think it was Proverbs 19:19, that said that, I'm going to paraphrase here, but if you prevent a high-tempered person from living the consequences of his action, then you're just allowing it to happen again. And that can go for any type of behavior. It's not just, you know, anger. But when someone is engaging in destructive behavior, if we do not let them face the consequences, we're allowing it to happen again and again. And often, you know, we think we're doing out of love, but honestly, tough love is an expression of Christian love. Because if you love someone, you're not going to let them, you know, jump off a cliff. If you love someone, you're not going to let them dig a hole deeper and bury themselves in that hole. If you love someone, you're going to do everything that you can possibly do to make sure that they have a better life tomorrow. And doing that might require you to take those steps. That's going to be tough love. Not calling off for work for them the next day, you know, not letting your credit card laying out so they can have access to it. And I've heard stories and actually met people who had to take very drastic make drastic changes to their life just so that they can teach the loved one that their lifestyle was not okay. So remember, tough love is Christian love, because you're trying to think of the long-term effect again. Now, it's not just what's happening in the moment. In the moment, it might be painful. You know, and it reminds me of that verse that says, "No discipline is pleasant in the moment." Right? Nobody likes to be disciplined, but think again of the long-term effect of it. Right? And I also want to remind caregivers that you are not alone. Please, just know, if you get anything else of what I'm saying today, just remember that you are not alone. There are a lot of support groups for children of people that people who are affected by addiction, drug and alcohol, and all kind of stuff. And if you need to find a resource in your community, please, I'll leave my contact info in the comments. Please reach out to me. I can help you find a support group in your area. So a lot of areas will have NA meetings, and for people who are engaged in the addiction themselves, but there are a lot of support group for caregivers as well. And one that for those of us who are looking for a faith-based program, there's Celebrate Recovery, and a lot of churches now are actually having group for caregivers, and they're actually breaking, like, they have a group for the persons that engage in the destructive behavior, but they also have a group just for caregivers. So please, if you need to find any of those resources, let me know. And I think with Celebrate Recovery, if you even just Google it, you can get on the website, find the website, and then usually churches who have groups, there's a search engine there, you can actually look for a group in your area. But if you need help, please reach out to me, and I'll be more than willing to help you find resources in your area. And also for caregivers, when I say you're not alone, remember, you don't have to do this alone. Caring for a loved one who has a destructive who is engaging in destructive behavior is draining. It's draining physically and emotionally. So you might not be able to control your caregiver's behavior, your loved one's behavior. You might not be able to control a lot of things, but you can control your own emotional wellness. So take care of yourself. take care of yourself. And that might mean, in addition to going to support group, that might be seeking counseling. Take care of yourself so that you can be there for them and help them in healthy ways. And counseling will help you find strategies to maintain routine at home, to set those boundaries, to strategies to actually implement that tough love that leads to, transformed lives. Okay. And for us, again, Christian, if, anything that, everything that we go through life, whatever you're going through right now, just remember that God is always there. You're never alone. And, those who wait on the Lord will renew their strength. So when you feel at the end of your rope and you just don't have energy to do it one more day, remember that God is always there. And God's love and grace does not change because our circumstance change it. No, even for the person who's right now involved in addiction, God's love is still there. It's still available. It doesn't change because of what we're doing, right? It's just we have to be willing to reach out and grab what's already available to us. And again, the Bible says that God will not leave us or forsake us. So reach out to God and reach out to others. Please do not walk alone. Right? Two are better than one. And there's success in the multitude of counselors. So make sure that you are not walking through these tough moments in life, these tough journeys alone. All right, that's all for now. And just know again that you in my prayers, wherever you're watching now or later, I just pray that the Lord will give you strength, that the Lord will help you find the proper appropriate boundaries to help your loved one seek help and be on the path to healing, path to recovery. Yes, it's not easy. I know it's not easy, but at the same time we don't have to do it alone. Okay, so stay blessed, be encouraged. And again, if I can help you find any of the resources in your area, just leave me I'll leave my email address in the comment. Just send me a private message through Facebook or send me email. I'll be more than glad to assist you and support you that way. All right. Have a good Sunday. Bye.